Every day I am learning the dark arts of corporate America. TGI, FML, NGL, lol.
What is our current dark purpose?
Let the conquest of the new world commence.
You'll answer to Lieutenant, and you'll like it.
Oh, I like him very much. You have turned our home into Jack the Ripper's recycle bin. Oops.
I must put the interests of America first.
I may have sleep-hypnotized Nandor into Richard Nixon.
Suck it to me.
I think you're in the wrong meeting there, Elvira.
I'm not even trying to feast on all the negative energy, but I'll be damned if it doesn't go straight to my hips.
A jack-off machine.
Why would I make myself another jack-off machine when I have a perfectly good one I built 100 years ago?
Don't sing if you want to live long. They have no use for your song. You're dead, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead and out of this world. Now your hope and compassion is gone. You've sold out your dream to the world. Stay dead, stay dead, stay dead. You're dead and out of this world.
You're listening to League Podcast, The Vampire Council, a What We Do in the Shadows podcast, Season 6, Episode 3, Sleep Hypnosis. I'm Matt Dursin.
Richard Nixon here. Just kidding, Clay and Ferno. Not a crook. Still not a crook.
Not a crook. Nope. Yeah, so this is the third episode. We did first two, and but they were all three were released at once, right? Am I remembering that correctly? It seems so long ago now. We've been away for a little bit.
We were away, and then we had we told a lie and said that we waited a week between episode 1 and 2. But we released that episode. But they came out with 3 all at once. And just like when we're backed up on our episodes, we say that 3 is too much. Too much.
It is too much. And just as it was to release 3 in one night, it was too much to review 3 at once. So we're doing it now.
A 1, a 2, a 3.
A 3. 3. You know, I saw that commercial like recently, like on just a regular TV show. I was like, that's
weird.
Really?
Like, wonder if you're watching on YouTube.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I was watching a regular network TV, or maybe it was Hulu or something, but like it was like this thing is like almost 50 years old, or probably more than that. Probably 50 years old.
Yeah.
It was really weird.
Like
Do they even make
when
Tootsie Pops? I know. I think you're right. Do they even make Tootsie Pops anymore?
Oh, yeah. It must have been before Halloween.
Oh, maybe that was it. Yeah. That I might have. All right. We'll go with that. Anyways, so yeah, the vampires, what's going on? So Nadja, I love Office Nadja, right? I mean, there's nothing funnier to me than with her working girl hair and everything. And like she's coming home from work and she's like, oh, TGIF, MLNGL, LOL. What is MLNGL? Is that a thing? Or I obviously know what TGIF is.
TGIF, and then the NGL, the thing you're asking about is NGL, not gonna lie.
Not gonna lie. Okay. What is ML? What is that? Muchas.
It made all sense to me. I'm not looking at it, so I don't know what she said exactly. I didn't write it down.
Well, I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, on a review page here.
Well, what is it? Tell them to me. I'll tell you what they all are.
It says TGIF, which is obviously Thank God It's Friday, and then ML and NGL, which is Not Gonna Lie, and of course LOL. We know LOL, but what is ML? What is that in the middle? What does that mean? My life, is that what it is? Kind of like,
yeah, maybe it's my life.
Yeah, maybe there's supposed to be 2 Fs. Maybe it's FML. I don't know. Whatever. I love it. It's great. It's hilarious. So yeah, she's coming home from work. She's like, oh, I think she's like, am I right? You know, whatever. And there's bodies. She actually throws her jacket on like a dead guy hanging in like it's a hook.
Like in the closet.
Yeah. There's dead bodies all over the house. And she yells at Laszlo because she's like, pick this up. And he's working on his monster. He's actually trying, he's like, is this Hazel? Or I think it's Hazel or whatever, but he wants their eyes to match. So is this? And she's like, get this crap out of here. And he's like, well, but it is pretty gross. I mean, like the show doesn't, they play everything for laughs, obviously, but they don't get to like, oh, vampires eat people too much. I mean, they talk about it, but this is like the first time here. There's like there's like bags of feet or whatever, bags of like he's sitting on a bag of noses or whatever. Like this is.
Yeah, she goes, you've made our place look like Jack the Ripper's recycle bin.
Yeah.
For your freaky monster sex doll, man.
Yeah, and he's like, he says, the freaky monster sex doll, as you refer to him incorrectly. But like, yeah, he's like, oh, that's a heart, kidneys, like he's just pointing out what he's going to use. He's saying he just wants to have spare parts around in case he needs them. Yep, spleen. Yeah. Where are we going to put all? And she's like, put all this, just get it out, move it somewhere. And he decides, how about Guillermo's old room under the stairs? Guillermo now, he lives in his Jack Shack. As we mentioned.
That's a cat's asshole. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is.
And the ghost dolly comes in and says, I fell into a bloody pile of corpses again.
Is that the first time we saw the ghost doll like walking? I don't know. We maybe have, but it's been a while. But
I think
funny.
She's walked around before because I've seen like some behind the scenes where they have like real puppeteers and everything, obviously, but they do. It's not CGI.
Not CGI doll. All right, well that's cool. But it's fun to see her walk around. It's like watching an old Muppets, like the Muppet movie or something. But anyway, yeah. So she's like, get rid of it, and he's going to use that space, Guillermo's old room, because now he lives in the Jack Shack outside in the shed, his masturbation shed. Nandor is like, no, I've already claimed that space, and it's like his home gym, or he's like my home gymnasium. And it's like, it's got just like a punching bag and one like treadmill or whatever, or Stairmaster or something.
Like a treadmill kind of thing.
Yeah, it's not even anything like, it's not that much. Yeah, and he's like, he just claimed it. And they're like, no, you can't just claim it, And there's a lot of back and forth. And finally, they put it, because Guillermo comes in, he's like, oh, whatever, you're out of hot water or something like that. And he says, I don't know, just put it to a vote. And they said, fine, we'll put it to a vote. And of course, Laszlo and Nadia both want him to use it for the dead body parts. So they outvote Nandor, who's, 2-1. And he's like, fine. And poor Nandor, he's very distraught. But Colin Robinson, meanwhile, he's watching all this through a vent. So like, he goes around the house, he tells us, through the various ducts and things, and like they just show him like sort of like at one point he just kind of just like flies out of the vent. It's insane.
Yeah, it's really funny. Another line I wanted to mention was Laszlo has a confession before the vote, and he says, now the line has been crossed. He's like, it's a slippery slope. It's slippier than a whore's saddle. And then he goes,
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does make a lot of references between the Jack Shack and just in general, like whatever. We'll get there, but there's a great line in the next episode when Guillermo says, you're all just holding your dicks in your hands. And he's like, well, why not? It's our house.
Yeah. I gotta go back because I had to like look at it on Hulu. The TGIF it shares an F with the FML, so which is like,
oh, okay, so it is FML.
TGIF FML. Not gonna lie.
All right, very good.
I couldn't remember it because it made sense to me at the time, but when you were like, what are all the things, I couldn't remember it off the top of my head.
That's okay. This website obviously got it wrong, so they made me look
the
foolish.
Captions have it wrong too.
Oh, okay. But when you watch it, Colin Robinson is now very upset when this voting thing sort of just brings to light the dynamics in their house have shifted. Now that Guillermo is gone, Nandor is alone, and there is no, like he just determines that nobody likes him and nobody wants him there.
Yeah. Well, he goes back into, remember like earlier when when Colin Robinson was a baby, they discovered there was an archive of all the old Colin Robinson's like writings and journals and stuff. So yeah, he goes through the vents and he ends up in his like weird shady archive room
with his poster of David Schwimmer. What the?
Yeah. Maybe because it's like friends and they're all live in a house like sitcom or something. I don't know. So he takes it down, and then there's like one of those like Always Sunny like murder boards, and
yeah, like, it's basically like a serial killer kind of type thing.
But Colin also has like great lines where he's like, "I've been keeping on who's hot, who's not, who's chic, who's weak, who's shy, who's fly, who's ballin', who's fallen."
Yeah,
in the house. He's like, I have a feeling they're going to, go against me, and then they're going to cut my body up into 6 little pieces and wear them as souvenirs. Or worse, I'll have to go apartment hunting.
Yeah, that's worse than being disemboweled or whatever. Colin Robinson does have most of the good lines in this episode. Like, I'm going to say that right here. He's got a lot of good lines. So yeah, so he goes out and he talks to Guillermo. He's like, "Hey, why don't you talk to Nandor?" And he's like, "No, you talk to him." And he's like, "Well, I'm hoping like if you talk to him, I'll just walk by and Nandor will notice me just because he wants to get out of that conversation." Like, just kind of like, this is not a way to get someone to help you.
Yeah, and then he's like, "Thanks for playing my favorite song when I came out to visit you." And
yeah,
Guillermo has a white noise machine that's just like humming.
Yeah, I know. It's like his favorite sound. And he says, "I don't know, like, why don't you hypnotize him?" He's like, "Oh, you can't hypnotize vampires when they're always on, they're on guard." And he's like, "Well, then hypnotize him when he's asleep." And he's like, and then he goes, I love it because he does like a face, whatever they call those sort of confessional thing. And he's like, "Sleep hypnosis? Is that even possible?" And then Guillermo's like, "Get out of here, I can hear you." And he's like, "Oh, now I got to do it again." 3,
yeah,
2,
he's like,
1.
I like the background noise.
Yeah, that's why he has to do it there. Yeah, he's like, "You have to do it here." I feel like that's the first time they ever did like a retake. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
They
do a lot of funny little things with the camera crew in this episode and the next one.
Yeah.
A little more interactive.
Great. I know, but I love it. It's like, okay, spend the 3, 2, 1. Sleep hypnosis, which also becomes a running gag in the episode. So yeah, he goes in. Nandor is asleep in his coffin. He's like, "Hey, Nandor, buddy, Nan Man." I thought it was a funny. He calls him Nan Man, and he hypnotizes him to think that Colin Robinson is great and that he is like a warrior. Like he's. Which is like,
he's like, "Your only ally is Colin Robinson." And he goes, he's like, "Are you?" Because Nandor's asleep.
Yeah.
"Are you sure? That sounds wrong." But
I know, okay. He's repeating everything he says, right? Like he's like, "I am a great warrior." It's like, yeah, you're a great warrior. I'm a great warrior. And Colin Robinson is, your only ally. He's like, "Are you sure?" Sounds wrong, but okay.
Sounds wrong. That was like the funniest to follow up. Like, sounds wrong, but okay.
Yeah. So he wakes up, and yes, he is like an evil, not evil, but he's Nando the Relentless, basically, again, which is funny because this is something that's been this is only the 3rd episode, but they have hinted at this. Like when they brought Jerry back to life, he was like, "Oh, yeah, like, have you pillaged and everything?" Like, and he's like, "No, I haven't really done any of that." He stabs his punching bag, like, and he pulls all the sand falls out, and he keeps kissing Colin Robinson on the head. But so he's reverted back to like his sort of more ancient or whatever. Like,
yeah,
so he doesn't speak English.
Yeah, he's speaking Alcanadorian, and Laszlo's like, "What the dick is he saying?"
That is pretty good. That's a good line.
Yeah, and then Colin says, "Well, no, hold on, I have a translation app here," and he has like holds up Siri or something,
right?
and they he's like translating it, basically like I have come to conquer and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Then he says something and he says, "Eat my ass" in El Nandorian, and the ass goes, "Eat my ass."
There's a woman, Shelby Young is a woman doing the voice. I love it. They didn't get like they couldn't get like the real Siri or whatever, but she's on X-Men 97 too. And she's been in a lot of
Do you remember when Larry was yelling at Siri in his car about the directions to the wolf's den?
No, yeah. Shut the fuck up. Laszlo, not Laszlo, I said Nandor's solution then, when they figure out the room, what to do with the space, is to burn it down. So, and I love it. They show Colin Robinson talking to the camera in the background. He's lighting Nandor's lighting an arrow, like, on fire, and he's shooting like a bow. He's like,
well, the firemen, that's like that's next, but like the firemen come and they're like doing Colin and Nandor are doing the confessional. And he's like, I have no idea what he's saying, but because he burnt my phone.
Yeah,
you
he's
see
like,
all the firemen rush in to put the fire out. Yeah, that's when Colin is like talking to Guillermo in the Jack Shack, and he's about to light up a big flaming arrow. And they're like, no, but talking to him like he's a kid. No, buddy, that's not safe. That's not safe.
Yeah, no, bud.
And he just like puts his thumbs up and he like does it anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, and Guillermo's there with like a fire extinguisher, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna just help them through this, and then I'm done." Which, of course, is not true. He's always gonna be around. But
Guillermo's like, "You should just get a new phone because his phone is all burnt up." And he's like doing the energy vampire thing, which people definitely do. I might be accused of this. He's like, "Well, I don't want to be getting a new phone now until like the new one comes out. There's nothing worse than upgrading your hardware on an off cycle." Yeah. Apple seems to be on an autumn release. And Guillermo just like shut the fuck. Is like trying to deal with the fire on the fence of the backyard.
Yeah, and he's like, just use my phone and put him back the way he was. But meanwhile, so Laszlo overhears them talking about sleep hypnosis. Oh no, it's Nadia overhears.
Well, Nadja,
because she's feeding on a fireman.
Is feeding on a fireman. That's why I wanted to mention the fireman. She's feeding on a fireman. And she goes, "Yeah. Sleep hypnosis? Is that even possible?"
Is that even
like
possible?
The thing they keep saying.
Yeah, that's the recurring theme. Yeah, so her plan is to hypnotize Laszlo to being cleaning up the whole place.
Being a neat
freak. Yeah, she says,
"You
will be tidier." Yeah, "You will be tidier and neater." And then he's like, he's repeating all this stuff, and then he says, "I love you, mommy." And she goes, I love that reaction.
Because he's like, neat and tidy, everything in its place. "I love you, mommy."
And I love her. She's like, So anyway, yeah, he wakes up and he's also moving at super speed as he's cleaning everything. Nadia and Colin are just sitting there reading. Did you I guess they have to have them doing something, but I find it hard to believe, or maybe not. If you were immortal and you didn't have a job or anything, I guess you would read a lot. I don't know. They're reading a lot.
I feel like, yeah, that's also like in the vampire lore of like Interview with the Vampire and stuff. Like all those vampires, like they always say they're like bored of all. They're in a huge library of books. They're like, I've read all of them. Because they have an infinite amount of time, as they just read a lot. And they that's how they keep up with current events or their history or whatever. They just read a lot. But also it's very like, this scene is very like the Munsters or the Addams Family or something. Like he's just like zipping around, cleaning everything. He's brushing the teeth of the bear.
Yeah. And like Colin Robinson's reading the newspaper, he just picks it up and takes it. Like he's like that. And I love he does like a confessional. He said, "Your lens is dirty," there, and he just wipes the camera lens.
And Colin also has a great line too. He goes like, he's reading the paper. He's reading Marmaduke.
I forgot.
He's like, "Oh, Marmaduke, you're always up to something." And then he turns to the camera. He goes, "You know they don't live as long." the bigger dogs.
That's such a terrible.
Marmaduke is so stupid. I hate
I
Marmaduke.
know. I always hated Marmaduke. It's so dumb.
When we used to get all the papers.
The papers.
On,
Yeah, me too.
On Sunday, we get all the papers. Herald,
Yep.
Globe, local one, the Enterprise, I think. They all had comics.
Yeah.
And I read them, all of them. I read everything that was in there. Maybe I would skip like some of the ones that were like, I don't know, what was that, like Brenda Starr or something? I was like, I'm not going to follow along with this story.
Right.
But I would always read Marmaduke and be like, I got to read Garfield next to wash the stupid Marmaduke out of my brain.
Yeah. No, Marmaduke was always terrible. We used to get all the papers too. My dad still gets the Boston Globe delivered to his house every day. I mean, not every day. Sometimes it doesn't come. Literally, like there's like 2 people in the town that get the paper delivered to me.
Get the papers.
I'm going to get the papers. So anyways, through the course of events, Laszlo overhears them talking about sleep hypnosis again. And he says, sleep hypnosis? Is such a thing even possible? I think that's when he says, oh, your lens is dirty.
Yeah.
It's getting out of hand, obviously. They sleep because now they all think that Laszlo is the greatest. And like, he also get so he gets a bunch of packages delivered. I love Guillermo shows up. He's like, oh, finally my like electric toothbrush or something like that. Or I forget what it is, but it's something that he ordered from Amazon, like a typical Amazon thing, or like his electric kettle, I think he says. And there are a bunch of packages for Laszlo Cravensworth. He's like, I can't believe he even figured out how to use Prime. And he goes in and Laszlo is saying, thank you, Colin Robinson, for allowing me to use get packages from the Amazon.
Yeah, it's like packages from the Amazon.
Yeah.
I thought that was really fun because it reminded me of the arsenic and old lace. Like sending people down to the Amazon or the canal or whatever, Panama Canal from the Amazon.
Yeah, that's right. Down to Panama was always the thing. Charge! Go back and listen to our arsenic and old lace episode. Anyway, so yeah, like now it's really because like they're all just worshiping Laszlo, and so they're like, oh, this isn't so.
Nandor's like combing his hair.
And there's some other sex joke about, or whatever, or some jerk off joke in there. I don't really remember, but there was actually a line I missed way back when they were fighting about the room. There was a box that was labeled like erotica or something. And she's like, oh, there's your Nadia's like, there's no room for your filthy porn mag. And he's like, no, those medical, diaries from doctors Flint and, or whatever. So Guillermo decides this is too much. And he goes to see this, Baron Afanaz. And he's like, can you hypnotize them back? And he's like, oh, yes, of course. It's such a funny, like, the sire is kind of there in the background. Like,
but he's also, remember those weird creatures that Laszlo made?
Yeah.
I guess they secrete some sort of a thing that's like a potion that
keeps
the
him
Baron
young
can
or whatever.
keeps him young. And the sire's in the background with like, talk about puppets. There's like 5 of those little gremlin things. And he's like squeegeeing out. He's like milking them for this stuff.
Yeah, they have like a tube. They have tubes inside them. Yeah. And he's like, and he's putting it like under his eyes. And he's like, oh yes, I look so much younger. But anyway, yeah, he's like, here, get your phone and you can record me hypnotizing them back. He's like, he's like, okay, he's like, but you'll get hypnotized if you listen. He's like, oh, so Guillermo takes out his noise canceling headphones. I forget, like the sire has like a funny name for them too. But
he calls them like ear buddies or something.
Yeah, ear buddies or something like that. Yeah. So he says like, oh, I'm gonna, like you will revert to normal or something. You will forget everything, that has happened or whatever. You forget everything you've learned. And then he's like, okay, great. Now let me record it. That was just, he's like, play it back. He plays it back. And then he's like, wait, now let me record it. And he keeps doing it because he's telling himself to forget everything.
He's hypnotizing himself. And it took me a minute to figure that one out too. But then Guillermo's like, oh, I see what's going on here.
I see what's
happening.
So
eventually he must have closed that loop because the next scene is he he's bringing the recording to all the vampires while they're sleeping to unhypnotize them.
Right, but then they come out and they have no idea that who any of them are. Like each other. They're like, "Oh well, hello, sir. I'm, Dr. Laszlo Cravensworth."
Nandor the
Nandor's like, I am Nandor the Relentless. And then Nadja comes out and Laszlo's like, "Oh, oh my!" Like he's into it. And then the guy and Jerry show up, right? Or is that Nandor's like in love with her or whatever?
No,
He's
it's just the guy. She mentions Jerry, but
right.
as they're introduced, Nadia comes in. She keeps waving to the documentary crew, like hello, because they don't know who anyone is. And when Nadia comes down the stairs and like sees Laszlo for the first time, he's like, "Oh, hello." And then Colin Robinson comes in, and he's like, who are you dorks, or who are you boners? That's what he says.
Yeah, he says, "Who are you boners?"
But Laszlo also like does the "oh, hello" when Colin Robinson walks in.
Yeah, well, we know he is fluid sexuality, I suppose. But yeah, so like this is obviously not right either. So they all they all are hypnotized back.
The guide shows up and she goes, "I was just with Jerry. The plans to take over the world." And they don't remember any of this. They didn't even remember Jerry in regular times anyways. And Nandor's like, "I love this ditzy blonde."
Yeah, who is this?
Guillermo's like sitting there and the guide is like, "Oh, sleep hypnosis. They say it like at the same time. And her confessional is like, "I learned all about it in Vampire Council sleepaway camp. Sleep hypnosis certainly is a thing." And then she's like, "Those bitches in cabin 9." Like a classic like summer camp thing. And she's like, "I know how to fix this.
Yeah. But when they fix it, then Guillermo like is put back. He's also kind of switched back, like or hypnotized to go back to, because he comes in and
because
asks,
do you know why?
do
you remember why? You remember why is because Colin Robinson says, "I guess he likes to," and it relates to this podcast you're listening to. He's like, Guillermo likes to fall asleep to podcasts, and he was listening to his Real Highs of Bumfuck Wherever recap podcast.
Bumfuck Wherever.
But he ended up listening to the Baron's hypnotized thing all night. So he completely forgets. He shows up and is applying for his job that he saw on Craigslist for the Familiar, which I guess is what it's still up there. It's still up there.
Yeah, that's weird.
They put a new one up.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Is there no prize for that? Like maybe it was.
My no prize is that it's fate. Like Guillermo will always be trying to apply for that job.
Right. It's sort of like in The Flash, the movie, where he's like, your mom has to be killed. It's one of those time moments, one of those moments that just has to happen or whatever. Like, yeah, it is. It's fate. Yeah. Because he comes in and he's like, because it was like light cleaning and whatever. And he's like, "But you guys are vampires, right?" And Nandor's like, because Nandor's like, he's like, "I thought about keeping him like fresh, And he's like,
well, they have this whole interview, which I thought was really good because, again, it's this story. This whole thing is about the love story between Nandor and Guillermo, and I feel like when Guillermo was like, "You guys are like," almost like the way if somebody was interviewing a roommate and they were gay and he thought that the other guys were gay. Like,
yeah,
you guys are like you don't want to say it, but like you guys are like, and then you guys are like vampires, right? And then Nandor shows his fangs and he goes, I didn't even see your fangs till right now. That's so cool. I've always wanted to be a vampire. My mom couldn't afford to make me a cape, but she somehow made me a cape. And like, we've heard that story like before.
Right.
But he's just like retelling it like it's if it's his first day. It was really sweet, like the love between those two.
I guess, yes, it's true. It was. I get, and yeah, I think Nandor is trying to kind of cover like or whatever by saying like, or like maybe he thinks like I can go back and do it again, like but do it right this time or something, or
yeah,
whatever.
because he's like, yeah, Guillermo's like, you would turn me into a vampire, and meanwhile, what he has forgotten is that he was turned into a vampire and turned back.
Yeah, because it didn't work. He couldn't fly. He couldn't do anything. It was terrible. But yeah, when he was like, and then he says, yeah, like I was thinking of keeping Guillermo, this way, but I forgot how loudly he breathed. Is what
He's like, I'm just gonna give him this one night. I just, I'm gonna hypnotize him back, but he just, and he's sleeping in his little space under the stairs when they cut away to the credits before the post credit.
Yes, the post credit is they decided to share the room. Laszlo is there reading Playboy. Nandor is on his Stairmaster or whatever treadmill, and
Colin's putting his David Schwimmer poster up in the background and it just falls. Because all Colin wants to use that space for is a place to stand.
It's crazy that this whole thing started with like they ended up just doing the smartest, like the simplest thing. Okay, we'll all use it. I mean, what's the difference?
And they have this whole big house, but they all need to use that little space under the stairs. But that's what it's like with roommates. It's a little bit less with your partner or your wife because you kind of are able to be like, I share a space. The room that I'm in right now, like, is the sewing room and podcast work from home room. Like sometimes when you're roommates and you're like, oh, I want the big closet in the hallway that no one else uses, or it's like we share it.
Right.
And it's like for a long time, like I had all these Wild Zero CDs in that closet or whatever, but everybody's fighting for space in it,
Yeah, I mean, I've only ever lived with one other person. Like I never lived with roommates plural. But even that, I guess there's a little bit of that, like, do you mind if I take this closet or whatever? She was fine. And I don't know. I guess I was, because I live with a woman, as we like to say in our James Bond podcast. But I always figure women usually have more clothes and stuff. It's fine.
Yeah, I need the closet space. And whatever.
Yeah, if you want to take closet space, it's fine. So
there was a really funny part too when Nandor and Colin were like using the space, and Colin has this awesome shirt that says like too blessed to be stressed, and he's like,
they were like working out or whatever,
with he's like, it's all bedazzled and he has a bedazzled visor on, and like he was just hilarious. Colin Robinson really shined in this episode.
This episode was definitely like all him. I mean, everybody had some good lines, but this was definitely like a good time for him to shine. Yeah, for sure. Funny stuff as usual. This wasn't like, I don't know. When we get to the next one, I really thought that one was prime. This one was funny. Like I said, great. Like some of the like, it's almost sitcom-y, the situations like, oh, now he's hypnotized. Now she's hypnotized.
Yeah, I thought that's what was great. It was like a whatever you call it, like a bottle episode. There was a theme and they stuck to it and they rammed it into the ground. It was great. Oh, we didn't even talk about how one of the times that that Colin hypnotizes Nandor, he was like, I thought I'd do something a little bit extra. So
of course, how did we miss that?
He showed him Richard Nixon like concession speech or whatever, or like some famous interview. And he's like, you could be more like this guy. And Nandor comes out with like a perfect Nixon impression and saying like all these famous quotes that he had, like, I don't think someone would ever write a book about my mother. And like, I am not a crook and all this stuff. And he's like, you want to be more like this guy, someone that's really, understands the body politique, and like saying all this stuff. And that's when Nadia's like, "Did you do something funny to Nandor's brain?" She's like,
Right.
no, and she's gets up and slaps Nandor and expects him to come out of it, and he just comes up with more Richard Nixon stuff.
It was a pretty weird choice. I mean, like Nixon was I mean, I guess it fits with Colin Robinson, who's always kind of like out of touch and whatever. But like, it kind of does fit. Like, I mean, like I read an interview where Kayvan Novak was like, "Did you know? Like, do you have a Richard Nixon impression?" Like, they asked it, like, "Do you where did that come from?" And he's like, "No, I didn't really know much about Nixon except from Good Morning Vietnam," he said. And he's like, "That's really all he's like, they gave me a bunch of YouTube videos of Richard Nixon. I didn't even really watch them. Like, he said, it doesn't make any sense. That's why Nandor would be able to do a Richard Nixon impression, but it's fine.
It does a pretty spot on one. It's pretty good.
Yeah, no, he did a great one. He didn't, but he just kind of like, he says he just kind of did a Nixon impression. He didn't really watch the YouTube videos that they showed him, but yeah, he's spot on. Like, that was funny. I don't know how we missed that, because you mentioned at the very beginning that you were.
Well, you said you
Richard
didn't
Nixon.
take very good notes, but
I did
cover it for you.
Usually I do, but it's okay. Now we
You're
get
a
to end
skip
on
around.
that
You're a
high
skip
note.
around. It's okay. I'll bring it back to things I want to cover. It's all right.
Yeah. That's
Then
why there's two of us.
when someone's falling asleep to us, and they're gonna wake up forgetting everything the next day anyway, so it doesn't matter.
That's right. I wonder if we're one of the podcasts that Guillermo listens to when he falls asleep, as opposed to Real Housewives from Bumfuck Whatever.
Maybe Harvey Guillen listens to all of the 2 or 3 What We Do in the Shadows podcasts that there are out there, because there's not that many, to be honest. There are.
That's good.
There's a couple, and I'm glad to say that we are, and we're friends with them. We share their stuff too.
Oh, I mean,
that reminds me, people should join our Facebook group. Join the discussion over there.
That's right.
The Vampire
Like
Council.
and subscribe. And if you're listening, Harvey, you can too. It's fine.
You can come on the show, or Kayvan can come on the show. They can all come on the show.
That's right. Help us out.
It's over. You got nothing else to do, right?
I know. What is this? The show's going to be ending in a few weeks, so might as well. Yeah, that sounds good. Do that. But also check us out.
Yeah, we're wrapping it up. Check us out where?
Check us out at leaguepodcast.com/vampcouncil, or just vampcouncil.com. And also, as Clay said, we have a Facebook group. We're on Instagram and wherever you get your podcasts. So check us out.
That's right.
YouTube as well. Did I mention YouTube? But I'm mentioning it now. We're over there as well. So check out all of the video versions of the podcast and let us know what you think.
You can also send us in an email. Any sort of feedback is appreciated. But if you want to leave us a voice memo of you screaming "bat," like we're going to do in a few seconds here, bat@vampcouncil.com is the email address for that, or feedback@leaguepodcast.com. We'll get all those emails. Let us know what you think of the show. Yeah. And if you're ready to flap it out of here, I'll do the countdown. You ready?
All right, let's do it.
All right.
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1.
Bat!
I always forget about the flaps.
Yeah, I never really. I mean, it's just the bat is a really good thing.